LaMelo Ball to Charlotte. He was taken with the 3rd overall pick. And simple question, was this the right pick for the Hornets to make?
I think that it was definitely the right pick to make, especially for Charlotte, a team who is looking for that superstar that they've lacked. You know, they kind of had it in Kemba Walker, if you want to say he was a superstar.
Yeah, like a star player.
Relatively to Charlotte, but he wasn't a superstar. And I think LaMelo has that it factor that you need to be a superstar in the NBA. He's been in the spotlight his entire life pretty much, and I think it helped him a lot going overseas and kind of being humbled a little bit because he still has that cockiness to him, but I think now he realizes that he's not the greatest player on earth, which I feel like he kind of had that at Chino Hills the last year that he was there. He had too much cockiness. And I think that confidence is good to an extent, but it was going a little too far. And then when he went overseas, he really matured as a player. And I know a couple of players over there that had formerly played in the NBA said that he was the best passer they ever played with. So he can play ball. And he showed it as a freshman playing on one of the biggest high schools in California with his 2 brothers, helping lead them to a state championship. At the Spire Academy, he put up ridiculous numbers. Overseas, he didn't play great, but considering he was 18 years old in a professional basketball league, he put up solid numbers. So he can flat out play. And I think one of the bigger concerns with him is his dad going to step out of the way. You saw what happened to Lonzo when he was in Los Angeles. His dad was like a cancerous leech. And then when he took a step back in New Orleans, I feel like we've seen Lonzo grow year after year. So if LaMelo can go to Charlotte, be his own person, and keep that confidence but not cockiness, I think he'll be a superstar.
I mean, I think great players have to have a sense of cockiness to them. I think every great player had that. Not to, sound cliche, but Kobe Bryant. Like, he was extremely cocky in himself. Rest in peace him, but he was extremely cocky. I think great players have to have that. I don't think that he lost it when he went overseas because, he still put up 17, 8, and 8. He did it pretty inefficiently, but he still did it against professionals. Yeah. But he's 6'7". The only concern I have about him is not about LeVar, is not about his inefficiency. It's more about the history behind 6'7" point guards. They usually don't pan out. Like, we've had Sean Livingston, Lonzo Ball is a recent case, even though I think LaMelo is better than Lonzo. If LaMelo can develop Lonzo's defense, I think he'll be a superstar, no doubt about it, because I think LaMelo's offensive game is really, really good. But when you look at the Hornets, I think something that gets overrated, like back to the question, it was the right pick, mostly because Wiseman wasn't there. If Wiseman was there, it'd be a tougher pick to make. But since it was LaMelo, only LaMelo, the guys that he was drafted over were who? Like Onyeka Okongwu, Isaac Okoro, Patrick Williams, Obi Toppin. Like, if you're talking about guys like this, yeah, LaMelo's a no-brainer. We talked about it in the draft recap live show that LaMelo Ball is like a consensus top 3 pick. As
much as it wasn't a sure thing this year as it was last year, you kind of knew.
Like, we didn't know the order this year, but we knew that the top 3 were going to be Wiseman, Edwards, and LaMelo. Yeah. And when you look at the Hornets, like, Mitch Kupchak is their GM now. He was a Lakers GM from 2000 to 2016 or 2017. He's been with the Hornets since the start of 2017. And since then, he's drafted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he traded him for Miles Bridges, which in hindsight was a bad trade, but Bridges is not a bad player.
He hasn't been bad. He's grown a lot.
Then he drafted P.J. Washington, Cody Martin, and Jalen McDaniels, and I don't think that's a bad draft class. He found Devontae Graham. He signed Tony Parker, and he traded away Timothy Mozgov for Bismack Biyombo. So in his short stint, like 2.5 years as a GM, he's gotten Graham, Rozier, Bridges, Malik Monk is there, P.J. Washington, and now LaMelo. Like, he's built their core since he's got there in under 3 years.
Yeah, and it's tough to work with what he came into.
Exactly. Nicholas Batum had a max contract. Cody Zeller was making a ton of money. They had awful contracts. And now there's a place for them to improve and grow. We can talk about Terry Rozier's contract being awful. Certainly when they first gave it to him, it looked like a horrible contract, but he proved everybody wrong. He proved that he wasn't just a role player, and he was actually a starter. Terry Rozier had a career year last year.
Yeah, I'm not that high on Terry Rozier. I think that those stats were kind of empty, being that he was with Charlotte, and there wasn't many other guys taking the load from him. Devontae Graham, you could say, but if they were close to a playoff team, I would have been more impressed. I think that if they can get rid of Terry Rozier, they should, because they have Devontae Graham, and personally, I want LaMelo to come in and assume that role that Ja Morant did last year with Memphis, where he's going to have the ball in his hands, and you're going to see very early on if he's going to develop quickly or not. But I think it was obviously the right pick. I think they still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I think they're going to improve this year, certainly from last year, just because that young talent, like you mentioned, Bridges, P.J. Washington, and hopefully LaMelo is going to develop over the course of the season. I don't think they're at that playoff level yet, because even though the East is weaker,
it really depends on how good LaMelo is off the bat.
If he can come in and be like a Zion or Ja, like we said for Anthony Edwards, it changes everything. But I don't think that any of those three guys are going to be at that level.
I think LaMelo has the best chance, though. Like, I know I've said Wiseman in terms of like Rookie of the Year, but just in terms of talent and potential, I think LaMelo might be the top guy. Like 6'7", he's the height of a wing, handle of a guard. I just sneezed. But yeah, like, he can do everything. I love LaMelo. Bro, that sneeze was coming in crazy. But yeah, I mean, Mitch Kupchak even said, like, they draft on talent and not positional need, which kind of hints that if Wiseman was there, they probably would have still took LaMelo.
Yeah. And I think that LaMelo fits. I think as much as they have Rozier and Devontae Graham, like I said, to me, LaMelo has that biggest superstar it factor, and that's what they needed most in Charlotte, because you're
not going to get a free agent.
I was just going to say, you don't get people without superstars or a big market or an incredibly good culture and some luck. And I think that LaMelo can be that guy who will come in and become your superstar, and he's an attraction. If people have been watching this kid since he was 15 years old, he's a household name coming into the league. So if he can develop to even be like half the talent that we think he's going to be, he'll attract some eyes, and people are going to start giving a look at Charlotte when this young talent develops this season. I like what they're doing, especially considering the situation that they were put in. Over the past few years, they've done a great job. I think that Kemba Walker leaving was the best possible thing that could have ever happened to them, because
they were going to have to pay him a supermax.
Exactly, and they would have never been able to develop beyond, where
but they were. Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was the best thing for both of them, and I think that now LaMelo can come in and be your future, and you got to build around him. It's going to be, this is the next step in the rebuild, and I'll compare it to Sean Marks because I'm a Net fan, so I watched that rebuild in person. He brought in D'Angelo Russell. He built that young core and created a culture, made them a playoff team, and D'Angelo Russell was the guy at the center. And sometimes you got to be able to take that next step. For the Nets, it came really quickly, and they had to sacrifice D'Angelo Russell to get Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And the Hornets, it might take a little more time. It might be a little more gradual, and they might never get to that ceiling of having two top 15 players in the league wanting the same.
Yeah, because Brooklyn is so much different than Charlotte.
Yeah,
like they have to home grow talent, and I feel like they have so far. Like Miles Bridges, he might not be a star, but I think he'll be a great role player in this league. Malik Monk, he just came off a season averaging 10 points per game. Yeah. He's not done yet. People wanted to write him off pretty soon, but he's not done yet. Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, like these guys are good, and P.J. Washington is the perfect stretch for the modern NBA. So LaMelo just has to come into the Hornets and pretty much play his role, but I think he has superstar potential. So you have somebody that can become that star. If they keep drafting well, I think the Hornets may be one of the teams that we talk about more, especially since LaMelo is there. Like LaMelo is box office. Yeah. Like he has 7 million followers on Instagram. He's box office. People are going to watch Charlotte because of LaMelo now.
It's like Lonzo. Lonzo went to New Orleans, and granted, they also got Zion.
And the hype died down on Lonzo when he went to New Orleans.
But even when he went to New Orleans, people were looking and seeing, what's going to happen in New Orleans. They got all that young talent, and I think that Lonzo was one of the bigger attractions of that deal. Yep. So I think that within the next few years, we're going to see Charlotte having an opportunity to make that turn and become one of those top teams and maybe land a free agent It all depends. It's just a thing about, like, I had this discussion with a couple of my friends about Giannis going to the Knicks. Does Giannis want to be that guy to go to New York and build his legacy there and be the guy to bring them back to superstardom? Or is it going to be like a Kevin Durant thing where he wants to team up with another superstar? Hopefully, within the next few years, they can find a superstar who wants to go and build his own legacy in Charlotte next to LaMelo and bring a championship there. They have Michael Jordan, who, although he hasn't been a great executive, is always going to, draw an extra eyeball. Who wouldn't want to play for arguably the greatest player of all time? So they have a good core there, and I'm excited to see what they build on, and LaMelo is just another great pick to add to that.
Hey, what's up, guys? You just finished watching a clip of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran.
My name is Jack Barteck.
My name is River Brown.
And we are your hosts for this podcast. We want to thank you guys for watching the clip. Like, subscribe, and comment, and share if you would care to, because it helps us grow. We're trying to make this a full-time thing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting, and see you next time.